Manuel was a living legend at the clinic. For over 25 years, doctors, nurses, and patients had learned to respect and appreciate his skills. An expert surgeon, he had saved countless lives, so much so that many considered him a true guardian angel. Although he was proud of his professional successes, his personal life was far from perfect. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to not miss exciting stories like this one. Few knew that Manuel, behind that charismatic and professional facade, spent his evenings alone, with only his dog, Rocco, for company. Rocco was a stray that Manuel had saved 2 years earlier, finding him hungry and cold on the side of the road while he was returning home from the clinic. From that day on, the dog became his greatest friend, his only constant, especially after his divorce from Sylvia, his ex-wife. 5 years earlier, Sylvia had left him, and their separation had not been peaceful. Manuel could not understand how he could have fallen in love with a woman like her. Sylvia had always been selfish and detached, more interested in her career as a lawyer than in building a family with Manuel. When their marriage ended, both felt relieved. Sylvia was already in a relationship with a wealthy businessman, a man who offered her everything that Manuel, with his endless hours in the hospital, could not give her. But Manuel didn't regret the failure of his marriage so much as the fact that he had left Clara many years before. Clara was the woman he had truly loved, the one who had stolen his heart during his college years. His parents, however, had never approved of their relationship. Coming from a poor family, Clara was not considered suitable for a future successful surgeon like Manuel. And so, driven by family pressure and the fear of disappointing expectations, Manuel had let her go. Since then, he had never heard from her again. If you like the story, leave a like to support the channel. For years, he had wondered what had happened to Clara. Was she happy? Had she found someone to share her life with? Manuel had continued to think about her until 6 months ago, when he decided to hire a private investigator, Diego, to try to find her. Diego was an expert investigator, capable of tracking down people who had been missing for years, and he assured Manuel that he would do everything he could to find Clara. However, despite his efforts, news was slow in arriving. Manuel woke up that day with an unusual sense of anticipation. It was his day off, and Diego had promised him some news. He decided to take advantage of the free time to go for a walk and buy some food for Rocco. Before leaving, he cuddled his dog on the couch and asked him, "So, Rocco, do you prefer biscuits or a nice bone today?" Rocco barked twice, confirming his preferred choice. Manuel laughed, and after saying goodbye to his faithful companion, walked towards the store. It was a beautiful sunny day, and Manuel felt serene for a moment, despite the thoughts that continued to torment him. On the way, he stopped to talk to some former patients, who greeted him affectionately. It was a typical scene for him. No matter where he went, there was always someone who recognized him and thanked him for saving their life or that of a loved one. Arriving near the store, he noticed a scene that struck him deeply. In the parking lot, a young woman, pregnant and visibly in difficulty, was arguing heatedly with a taxi driver. The woman was in tears, her face contorted with frustration and desperation. Every now and then, she touched her swollen belly, a clear sign that the pregnancy was in its final stages. Manuel, observing the scene, immediately understood the problem. The woman did not have enough money to pay for the taxi fare. The young woman pleaded, "Please, I only have 10 euros. But the taxi driver didn't seem to want to give in. Manuel, who couldn't stand to see someone suffer without intervening, approached. "Is everything okay?" he asked gently, trying to understand what was happening. The taxi driver, visibly annoyed by her intrusion, replied brusquely, "It's none of your business, sir." But Manuel, strong in his influence and connections in the city, was not intimidated. He threatened to call the manager of the taxi company, at which point the taxi driver calmed down and walked away, leaving the woman in peace. Manuel, in a reassuring tone, asked her if she was okay. The young woman, embarrassed and desperate, shook her head. "I'm alone. I'm about to have a baby and I have nothing. My boyfriend left me. I have no job and my family doesn't want to have anything to do with me anymore." Manuel looked at her, feeling a deep compassion for the young woman. There was something familiar about her, but he couldn't figure out what. For a moment, he thought that perhaps he had met her somewhere before, but he shook his head, focusing on the situation at hand. He couldn't leave this woman, who was clearly in trouble, alone. Without hesitation, Manuel reached into his pocket and pulled out €300 bills. "Here," he said, "these will help you at least for a few days." The young woman looked at him, visibly moved. "I can't accept. It's too much." "Don't worry," Manuel replied. "It's all I can do for now. Take care of yourself and your baby." What would you do if you were in Manuel's situation? Leave a comment. Returning home, Manuel felt light, satisfied to have helped someone in need. When he opened the door, Rocco greeted him, wagging his tail, happy to see him again, even though Manuel had returned without the promised food. Shortly after, the phone rang. It was Diego. "Manuel, I found Clara," the detective said, but his tone of voice did not bode well. Manuel's heart began to beat faster. "Where is she? How is she?" Diego paused, then continued in a grave voice. "I'm sorry to tell you. Clara died 20 years ago." The words hit Manuel like a blow. All that time, he had imagined Clara happy, with a family, while he continued to mourn her in silence. Now, he discovered that the woman he had loved was dead, and he had never had the chance to say goodbye. That same afternoon, Manuel decided to go visit Clara's grave. When he arrived at the cemetery, however, he found a surprise. In front of Clara's gravestone was the same young pregnant woman he had helped that morning. The woman turned around and, recognizing him, was speechless. At that moment, Manuel understood everything. That young woman was Clara's daughter. The look he recognized was that of the woman he had never stopped loving. He approached, and the girl, her voice broken by emotion, said, "My name is Anna, and Clara was my mother. She died when I was just 2 years old. I never really knew her, but I know everything about her. I also know that she was her great love." Manuel felt his heart tighten. "I didn't know that Clara had a daughter. I didn't even imagine that—" "Yes," Anna interrupted, "and now I'm having a baby. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you more this morning, but I was so upset. My mother told me about you, in an old diary I found." In that moment, Manuel understood that fate had brought them together for a reason. Now, they were no longer alone.